Hello and welcome to Unbiased, the flagship podcast which we bring you from the corridors and halls of Absolom and Shepherd. And this is the first episode we're airing since our transition from our former name, Absolom Attorneys. My name is Simbarashe Absolom Rondoti, and this is Shepherd Machigere. Shep, how goes it?
I'm great, Simba. How are you?
Awesome. So we're bringing in these episodes, Shep, to share with the people in our knowledge of the law, but more importantly, to address how the law interacts with the basic everyday issues of life, especially as it relates to our client.
Indeed, and you realize that the law is a technical field, and many of the people who interact with the law will always view it from a distance as something that is technical, something that is hard to understand. And so it's very important for us to be able to break it down so that the men on the street can relate with the law. Because technical as it may sound or as it may seem, the challenge is it's a pivotal cog within our lives that at any point you will find that policies, laws govern you. So it's important that at least you have an appreciation of how you interact with the law.
And by the way, before we jump the gun, congratulations on making partner.
Thanks a lot,
Name
Simba.
partner at that.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about business and the law, because seeing as we are a corporate firm, we want to discuss in very basic terms how business interacts with the law. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is really a lot that needs to be addressed as relates to how business interacts with the law. Because business itself, the way businesses are structured, when you speak of business structures, you are talking of legal entities or legal systems or legal structures. And so it's important for anybody who wants to do business to be able to appreciate what are the various business structures that exist, what are the advantages and disadvantages, which options best suit my circumstances, so that they are able to then pick the best that can serve their interests.
Awesome. And I've noticed, Shepherd, I don't know if it's something you've noticed as well, but of late, the young people in Zimbabwe especially, and even middle-aged people, they are bringing the heat as far as hustling is concerned. There is a rise, a new movement that is coming up as regards Zimbabwe's hustle culture. And this is true for Zim as it is for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think it's pertinent for us to have this conversation at this time in history, because for the first time, we see young Zimbabwean people proudly representing the nation on different business competitions, on different platforms. We see young Zimbabweans inventing, innovating, and dominating. So what are some of the key pressure points that someone in business needs to know about the law?
I think key is the protection of your investment. Because look, you are getting into business to create value. Value in the products that you are giving out to the community, to society. Value for yourself as an investor, because it takes risk. It takes courage for you to actually, yes. So obviously something that takes a lot from you is worth of protection. You need to protect it. And the key question is, how do I protect my investment as somebody who has started my hustle or my business? And I think it's important that we need to zoom in on the various risks themselves. Yep. And the various protection mechanisms that are available within the context of the law.
Perfect. And you speak of risk. I think I speak for everyone else when I say in any jurisdiction, the concept of risk cannot be wished away.
Indeed.
It's a phenomenon that is as stark as reality itself. But what are some of the risks that one would want to look out for? I think when I'm thinking about it sitting here, I think one of them would be currency risk of losing your investment to fraudsters, and how best, of course, we're keeping it as general as we possibly can. What are some of the thoughts that come into your mind as pertains business risk?
Yes, as you did mention, Simba, issues to do with currency and all that. But for me, I think initially, before I even go there, the business idea itself. it's worth of protection because, look, that's the key investment. You know what differentiates this business from the next is the kind of ideas that you are offering.
Forward.
Yes. And so I think a lot of young people in the context of African businesses, because this is the space within which we are seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of new ideas coming to play.
Yeah.
So there is a need to protect those ideas before you even invest a cent into the business.
There's something I like to coin the Hoa mentality, and I'll explain what I mean.
Yes.
The mushroom, at a certain point in our history, there was a frenzy, a trend where everyone wanted to do mushroom. When everyone turned the extra room in their house into a mushroom farm. Then there was a dispensation where people left mushroom and they started selling a certain kind of bed. It was a relish. I don't know what it's called. But the point Zhiuta.
Yes.
So there was the Zhiuta dispensation.
Indeed.
And the point I make, Shepard, is historically, we seem to operate on a trend basis where we follow trends regardless of any innovation or divorced from any innovation.
Yes.
We seem to have a knack for copy and paste. But I think where we are going, like you rightly say, we need businesses that own and develop unique selling points.
Yes.
Unique selling points that can be protected and packaged as intellectual property. So yeah, that's a very pertinent point. And to, shake ourselves away from the Zhiuta mentality.
Yes.
But what else can you think of as regards business and the law?
You also need to protect the business relationships.
Okay.
Yes. The business relationships, they are a key cog within the context of doing business because, look, you have relationships with your suppliers, you have relationships with your creditors, you have relationships with your clients, and you want to protect those. Of course, you could protect them by offering the best of service that can then make sure you retain them. But beyond that, there are issues of circumvention. For example, if you are partnering with somebody in business, you need to avoid them maybe going behind. For example, a supplier goes, a customer goes behind you and they interface directly with your supplier, thereby, excluding you from the matrix.
So I guess that's something you account for in the agreement, in the service level or supplier agreements.
Indeed, service level agreements. You also need to protect your relationships in the context of partnership, for example.
Okay.
Yes. Now we talk of issues to do with shareholders, for example. How are you going to run the business? Who's going to be responsible for management? What are the governance systems and structures of the business? There
are people who do MBT, though, management by trust. There's still room for trust, isn't there?
There is. For us to survive on this earth, for that matter, there is always an element of trust, you see. But when you talk of business, you see, interests are entrenched. We just talked about everybody, hustling. And everybody is hustling for a reason. They want to preserve and protect their interests.
And there's a bit of selfishness
a bit of selfishness there. It's just that, and selfishness to a certain extent is good. Because, it's self-preservation.
Yeah.
But it has to be managed.
Yeah.
And what better way to manage selfishness in business than to protect yourself by way of shareholder agreements that ensure that things are in black and white. And you know where you stand as it relates to matters, as it relates to governance, as it relates to management, as it relates to finances especially. Because many cases, many a time, when the monies start to roll in, that's where problems surface.
Of course, like we say, this is not a technical discussion. So we're not going to get into the nuances of exclusivity agreements and fiduciary outs. By the way, I just said that because I'm a lawyer. We are, however, I'm going to ask you, Shepard, you spoke of preserving yourself against different relationships. So that's your suppliers, that's your creditors, and bring it to context now. To a person seeking to start a business in Zimbabwe at this point in history. What are some of the thoughts that you can share with them as regards legally being sound?
Yes, I think you need to define the model of business that you want to get into, the structure that best suits your circumstance in terms of the model you have decided on, and even in terms of the operational modalities of your business. You could decide to be a sole trader. You could decide to go into a business partnership. You could decide to incorporate a private limited company. You could decide to have a cooperative company. For example, maybe you are a community. You could even start out maybe being a private company, but with hopes to list at some point. So all those considerations need to be brought to bear. And
can I just interrupt you there and say, some of the startups we've assisted as part of our pro bono efforts as Absolom and Shepherd have always come with a question. Is it necessary to incorporate from the get-go? Because business sometimes it's a bit of testing the waters there. So do you think it's necessary for someone who's bootstrapping, for someone without a solid budget, to set aside a sum of money for incorporation so that they can have a piece of paper in their drawer before they have proof of concept, before they have a business case? What's your thought on that?
I like the way you have described it as just having a piece of paper, because I think that's the temptation that many people then fall into, to just assume that it's a question of just having a piece of paper. No, it goes beyond that. There is every need for businesses to incorporate. It's important. Why? Because obviously when you're starting a business, I don't think there's anybody who starts a business so that it can just stagnate. You want to grow. And there are very varying stages in terms of the growth trajectory. So at some point you are going to need partners. At some point you are going to need financiers. Those people will rely on your structure. They will rely on your records. They will rely on the systems that you have put in place. So incorporation is a very pertinent stage, because what it then does is it removes you from the realm of just managing things as an individual into institutionalization. And institutionalization is important because it then facilitates you partnering with other institutions, partnering with financiers, partnering with suppliers.
Makes it easy for people to come on board.
Exactly.
Because everything is in black and white.
Indeed. So I would say it's very important. If you look even in the NGO sector these days, donors are looking into that. They want to see if you have registered a trust, a foundation, a non-governmental organization, and you are going out to look for donors. They want to see who is behind this thing. Is it not just Simba and his, friends or his family out to get donor funding?
Another question that comes up when we, train entrepreneurs and startup entrepreneurs is to what extent during the pitching, because these young people are going around pitching in many different places, and boy, is it exciting, the results which they are obtaining. But the question they ask is, to what extent can I massage the truth behind my business? Because you can agree with me that in many pitching platforms, there's a lot of hyperbole, there's a lot of exaggeration. People want to paint a rosy floral picture. To what extent is that permissible by law?
Look, at law we call that that hyperbole that you were describing there. There's a technical term. It has just eluded my mind, but there's a technical term that speaks to that. It's a marketing of some sort. It just has to be a pitch.
All right.
Nothing beyond
and
that.
I think investors will respect that you've told them the truth, even if the truth is to your disadvantage. I think they will respect the integrity.
You could even get an investor on the basis of having come out open to say, look, this is the weakness of my idea.
And the investor says, hey, I can plug in that weakness.
Exactly. In any case, that's why you look for partners. You want somebody who can then be able to complement those gaps and those weaknesses.
All right. Speaking of partners, Shepherd, I'm excited for our partnership and that we are going to be steering the firm towards its vision to be the future of law practice.
Indeed. It's an exciting moment. We look forward to great things with all our stakeholders, and I'm sure a lot more awaits.
So any final thoughts on this subject, and picture your audience as a first-year university student who's trying to start out in business. They have a very distorted sense of business. The only thing they know about business they've learned from movies and Hollywood. And you want to give them a reality check, but without dashing the hopes of success that lie within them. Any final thoughts as relates to business and the law?
I think the best way of learning is learning by doing.
Yep.
The earlier you start, the better. And also mentorship and coaching. There are people who have walked this path. It's not something that is new. Go to those people, find out how they started out, and be able to benchmark and articulate those ideas so that you can as well copy. He's indeed the wisest man to ever live. King Solomon said, nothing is new under the sun.
Perfect. I cannot add anything to what you've said. It's premium wisdom, except to add that they should also look out for the master classes that we hold as Absolom and Shepherd. As part of our corporate social responsibility and ESG efforts, we always try to connect with young people in business, people whom we believe are going to own industry in the next 5 and 10 years. Because after all, our mantra says we seek to have people experience the future of law practice. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you for joining us in this absolutely stunning show. And I'm not the one who's supposed to say that, Shepherd, am I?
You can as well say.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us from us at Absolom and Shepherd. I'm Absolom and this is Shepherd. It's been great. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.